right, you guys? Podcast time.
Chew. It's quieter.
Fucking podcasting right now.
Chew quieter.
And now, to the podcast studio.
Welcome back to Chew Quieter, everyone. This episode is not your typical episode that we're doing. For anyone that follows me on Facebook, you know that I am big on calling people out. And that's what this episode is about. We're calling someone out that deserves to be called out. And we've asked questions. We really have not got answers. And it's just a big mystery to us why someone claiming to be raising money for a charity has either money missing or is delaying payment to the charity when a lot of the money that was donated was cash. So what we're talking about is Darb Whitfield.
Oh, I'm out.
Darb Whitfield
Just
and
kidding.
his event Crawl America, which was rebranded years ago from the name JP Treks. It was originally called JP Treks, and then they rebranded around 2019, 2018 to Crawl America. So Armando has a nonprofit organization. It's called Hero Off-Road. Armando, you want to talk a little bit about what Hero Off-Road exactly does and what you do?
So Hero Off-Road's been around since 2012, and it started by me, funded by me. I got out of a job that required me to basically start another organization called Wheelers for Warriors. And I did everything I needed to do to pursue the job as well as the nonprofit, because that was it was something I was saddled with. I got the job and then, oh yeah, by the way, this is something you have to take care of. I'm like, I don't fucking know shit about this. But it was an organization that had great intentions of helping veterans, doing good for veterans. And I started doing that, and I found something that really intrigued me and really kept my interest and really meant something to me and in my heart. And the job went to shit because the owners of the company just didn't really care about it. They were using that as a way to promote the company. And I got into it at King of the Hammers. I quit a job at King of the Hammers, and I drove out with the owner. So it was the worst drive home. And then I quit, and then they were like, well, you have nothing to do with this organization anymore. You're done. So I'm like, motherfucker. All right. Well, I've already embedded into it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just start my own. Screw 'em. So I did that. 2012, I filed with the state of Arizona for the Corporation Commission to be a nonprofit in Arizona. And we ran that until I could afford to do the IRS filing, which took about a year and a half for me to finally get to the point where I could justify doing that. So this is the beginning of 2014 that I did the filing, and in the middle of 2014, we received our 501c3 notification. So we've been running as a 501c3 organization since 2014. And what we do is adventures for active duty service members as well as veterans. And also we bring along some family members too. So the idea has always been the family enlists with the service member. So they give up as much as anyone else does when their loved one goes off and fights for us and leaves the family behind for months on end. Those people, the families and wives and husbands and kids and ever all feel the distance, the loss, the separation, all the things that they go along with that job and what they do. So we always try to make sure the family's always taken care of. So we annually do the Patriot Crawl. We've done some adventures where we put participants into race cars through either Dirt Riot, We've done Baja 1000, Baja 500s. We've done some California stadium style desert racing, and a few others. And then recently we've started to do the fishing adventures. And the nice thing about that is the fishing adventures are going to actually spread out to something way more, to do not just saltwater fishing, but to do freshwater fishing, to also do some camping and some other outdoor activities. So we're kind of morphing from just being strictly off-road related to being full outdoor adventure related. So it'll really help us increase the number of people we can get into. We can take 20 people on a saltwater deep sea fishing expedition. That costs about twice as much as it costs to send one person to race in Baja. So it's not cheap to do any of the adventures, and the stuff that we do. I think through all the programs, that all those adventures just cost a lot of money. So we're still small. We don't ever raise more than, I think our highest grossing year might have been 25,000, but we're under the small threshold. We still file a 990 postcard. We don't need a full filing. So that's it. Small board of director. We just did another shakeup in the board, so it's only 2 members right now, as we kind of sift through and try to figure out what and who needs to be put into certain places to really help grow this next year with what we want to do, especially with this new side that we're doing, the Hooks for Heroes.
Nice. So, do you remember JP Treks getting involved with Hero Off-Road and how that all started?
Yeah, it was years ago. They were doing something. I think they were working with another organization, and it might have been, who was it? I forget who they were. They were with another organization. I think it was the same one that was at Patriot Crawl that one year. that we have a problem with.
Yeah.
And I think that went sour, and then I think Darb reached out to me and started back then. So
this was maybe 2015.
Yeah, somewhere around 2014, 2015.
Okay. I reached out to Nathan Grizzoffi, who was one of the original founding members of JP Treks. It was him and Jacob Hurd. I wanted to get his take on what's going on, because essentially he was deceived, and Darb basically pushed him out of his own event. So I reached out to Nathan to get his take on everything that's going on. So I'm going to quickly show you guys some interviews and some talking points that we had during earlier this year. This is all kind of been in the works, guys. So this is all pre-done interviews. So just give me a second and I will show you what I'm talking about. All right, Nathan Grizzoffi, thank you for joining me and having this discussion with me. For the record, you were one of the original founding people of JP Treks, and you are also a Navy veteran.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit and talk about how you and Jacob Hurd started JP Treks really quick.
So Jacob was a rep at Terraflex, and I'd done a ton of stuff with them, and him and I have gone back and forth, messaged on Facebook, and we talked about potentially doing an event, and I was like, dude, I'd love to get involved. Me and Jacob kind of sat down, talked about the details, worked it out, and then our first event was in Colorado, and we held it. It was a very simple event, nothing too crazy. We wanted to start off small. Very small thing just to cover costs, get it going, donate a little bit to the charity, and, really just kind of help out. And it was awesome. I mean, the first year was a kickoff to everything, and we thought it was going to be huge, and we were just going to get bigger, over the years as things progressed, and had no idea where it was going to go or what it was going to lead to. But yeah. And then, a couple of vendors and stuff, were involved and wanted to help out and thought it was a great idea. And, we wanted to be more budget friendly because obviously Mel Wade and, his, event and the JK experience and all the fun stuff, it's expensive as hell. And we were like, cool, but, we're just average people. We don't have a ton of money to throw out, and we wanted to make it affordable for everybody. And, a couple of grand or, a few $1,000s, whatever, to invest and stuff like that was not a lot for anybody to be a part of something like this. So, we thought it was huge.
So he's got a novel idea. And from there, it just kind of took a turn when Darb got involved. So I asked Nathan how Darb actually got involved with everything.
So how did Darb get involved with JP Treks?
Originally, that was the first time I met him when he came to the event in Colorado. I didn't know who he was or never heard of him at all. But he came as a vendor for the first event and brought a bunch of t-shirts and swag and stuff like that, and seemed cool at the time. And, me and Jacob had no idea. Jacob knew him from somewhere previously. I was just out of the loop on him altogether. But yeah, as far as I know, he just came as a vendor and just wanted to be involved and participate and stuff, and something that was new and up and coming.
I don't remember the name of the company Darb had at the time, but he was basically selling light bar mounts for a hood for a Jeep. And that's what he's referring to as he was there as a vendor. It wasn't really anything, nothing that took off. And I think he was trying to leverage getting known a little bit to sell these things. So I went on and asked Nathan how Darb actually got infiltrated in being an owner in JP Treks.
So at what point did Darb get invited to be part of the JP Treks board or ownership?
I never invited the guy to be a part of anything. It was me and Jacob, and we were creating a base of people to be like secretaries and, treasurers and stuff to really kind of help out and oversee the operations and stuff when things were going on. But me personally, there was never a time where I was like, yes, Darb, we want you 100% involved. Like, you bring, like, never. The second year, personally, I 100% regret not being able to actually do the event. I had a lot of personal stuff going on and I couldn't go to the event in Pennsylvania. But I think that's where it kind of took a turn. And Jacob and Darb possibly putting stuff in Jacob's head, I guess, about the event and overseeing things and getting more involved. And honestly, I think he just weaseled his way in and, uses his tactics from what I've learned, and shenanigans and schemes and whatever it is to kind of literally mosey himself in and put himself in a position that he felt he was in power. So Pennsylvania happened. That's when BFG kind of came on board, which was huge. Jonathan and Tim Cromer and all these other guys. And that's when talks and stuff. And it was kind of weird because I was fully left out of the conversation. Like, either Darb was like, hey, I'll have this conversation with Nate, don't worry about it, whatever. And the conversation never happened. Mm-hmm. I was excited BFG was on board, but I found out after the fact, and then it stemmed from getting donations from BFG and tires and all this other stuff. And that's kind of where it really started for me going downhill when stuff started happening. I was just left out of the loop. So, Jacob got tires for his Jeep, and then he got tires for his truck. And I was like, okay, well, I could use a set of tires if we're, they're doing stuff. I run 40s, like, let's go, Yeah. And I, Jacob got a set of 40-inch crawlers, 39-inch, blue labels by accident. And the blue labels are awesome because you can daily drive those. There's a little bit of a better compound, and, it's easier than the reds. Mm-hmm. But Jacob got them, and I thought he put them on his Jeep, and I was like, all right, cool. Maybe I'll get a next set next year. It wasn't a big deal for me. After the conversation with Jacob, Jacob's like, hey, man, that's cool. I'll give my half to Darb, or he'll buy me out of my portion of it. I said, cool, no worries. Whatever, we'll figure it out. Whatever that monetary value was. We hadn't put a value on what JP Trucks was worth at the time, or what it was going to be. When we talked about it, Jacob set up a monetary value with Darb. They worked something out. It was like $5,000 or something like that, just to buy Jacob out of his portion. So the conversation in the hotel room that Darb and I had together were that, hey man, you and I, if that's the case, you're buying Jacob out, you and I are 50-50. We're partners. We'll split, we'll do whatever. And it was kind of fine after that. We did the event. The event went off without a hitch. Like, we had a great time in South Dakota. It was awesome. And then it was slowly after is where it was just kind of weird for the rest. Darb and I didn't really talk much. I was like, hey man, what's going on? What's going on with the event? What are you thinking? Like, what can we do? I got it, man. I got it. We're taking care of things. I'm like, all right, cool. And again, left out of the loop. And I kept pushing and asking and stuff. And every week or 2 weeks, I was like, hey man, what's going on? Nothing.
So first of all, shout out to BFG Tires. They're a very charitable company. They're a company that's been grounded in off-road for a very long time. All three of us have run BFG Tires. We know the group at BFG. Yep, we know the group at BFG really well. So just a quick salute to them for trying to be charitable and doing the right thing. With that being said, what's your take on this so far?
Kinds to be, I'm in it for me and not for anybody else right now. There's only kind of one person that's doing it for other people. That's where I'm at.
Armando?
Yeah, similar. Funny thing is, after the first JP Trucks event, I got a phone call about Jacob Hurd. And it was, be careful with that guy. You're letting him kind of be over your organization. He's putting your organization in a position where you might have a problem with that. And like always, for us, it's been, as long as it's not dragging us into the mud, we're not going to have a problem with it. And I think what happened is when the JP Trucks all started going down, Jacob kind of got his hands dirty and walked away because he knew he was going to start getting taken out.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the South Dakota trip with JP Trucks, and that was the first year that I got involved with JP Trucks and Darb, Nathan, and the whole thing. I didn't really witness anything at the time. I went into it as this was a project for Crawl 5280. I'm going to focus on this project. I'm going to do my best to put out a great product. And that's what I did. I filmed the entire event, and it seemingly went off without a hitch. Later, come to find out, some things on the behind the scenes weren't all, wasn't all peaches and cream. So I asked Nathan, where, in his opinion, when did it start going south? When did he realize things were not going as planned?
We had Amber and Brad Brewer, who were a big part of the event. Same thing with Trevor Campbell and Brittany Campbell. They were there. And a big part, because they're here local in Colorado, we could meet up and do stuff. And, Amber and Brad and I, we talked all the time about it. They wanted to be involved. They wanted to help out with t-shirts. They wanted to do all this stuff and, get the swag packs together. And it was fun. And then come the following year for Tennessee, we were in Tennessee. Everything was good. I worked out a deal where I paid Amber and Brad to tow my Jeep out to Tennessee. I flew out there. Anyway, so Tennessee was good. We had a great time. And then towards the end of the event, she just seemed to be a lot of animosity with Darb. Tennessee was like the straw that like literally broke the camel's back, man. I mean, Darb and I sat down, we had a conversation. He's like, hey man, I just, this isn't working out. I'm like, what's not working out? He's like, well, I'm the main sole person of JP. I'm like, no, you're not. Like I was the face of JP Trucks. Like I was the motivator, the hype guy. Like, it's like Dennis Wood at Terraflex. Like he's that guy, right? I'm the guy for JP Trucks. Like that's what it was. And, Darb just had this weird feeling and got this thing in his head that he bought the entire thing from Jacob when Jacob never owned the entire thing. Jacob and I had something, talking and verbal and everything done that, hey man, he's buying your portion of it. I'm still me. Like, we're good. And Darb like pushed me out of the entire event that Jacob and I started. Had this crazy idea. I wanted to go super big and charge this and charge that and do these things and just go overboard. And then I realized that stuff wasn't getting paid for. Money was missing. All these things were happening to Darb's Jeep, and like nothing was conveyed to me as far as like, hey man, we'd love to put a bumper on or do this or get you tires or, do some new seat covers, whatever. Like when his Jeep was in, was it in Tennessee? No, it was here in Colorado. And it was getting Line-X or something like that. I went down and saw one of the guys who was one of the sponsors and went down there 2 weeks prior. Darb and I had a conversation. He was like, yeah, man, because Donnie with, Bartact at the time was like, hey, man, we'll try to get you some stuff. No worries. I was like, hey, Darb actually has a set that he's taken off and putting a new set on, so don't worry about it. Darb and I worked it out where I was going to go take those seats off. So I went down like a week later, saw the Jeep after I got Rhino Line, that tan color, whatever it was, and then swapped the seat covers and stuff. And then like 4 or 5 days later, I get yelled at from Darb because I took the seat covers that he told me to take. I'm like, they were never your seat covers, dude. They were a part of the event, and I'm half owner. Like, this is what's going on. And he's like, well, I own the entire event. I don't know what you're talking about. And like literally lost my mind. And ever since then, dude, it's been hard to deal with anything and see anything from the event because of what has transpired over the past couple of years. But with, everybody reaching out to me because they know who I am, Chris Roll, right? Perfect example. Huge with the charity. He was the one. Chris is a veteran as well. Right. So him and I talked several times about this. And then when, like Hero Off-Road and all these guys, he was supposed to do this and that. And Chris is like, hey, man, have you talked to Darb? We haven't got a check yet. I'm like, hey, man, I'll call. I don't know what's going on. I didn't manage the funds. I didn't manage the money. I was not involved at all. And time went on. And Chris reached out to me again, and he's getting frustrated. And the charity's like, dude, what's going on? This is bad juju. You know what I mean? That's when it really kind of set in, and all the past stuff that accumulated from stuff missing and stuff getting donated and going in his favor and Drew's favor and all this other stuff. And all these things were happening. And then it was him and Drew. And I'm like, so where do I fit into my event that I started? But as far as veterans go, man, I mean, you represent a company and organization, and you're expecting as that charity organization to get funds and monetary value from that event because they're using your name and you don't see a dime. Dude, I'd be livid, to be honest with you.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Just a little. So this was all before my time coming into the mix. So I'm learning as I'm watching. And to be honest, I'm not surprised.
So Tennessee was the first year that Darb was a little bit tardy with his payment to me. I was also filming for that event that year. It took him quite a while to pay Crawl 5280 what he owed us. there was excuse after excuse why he couldn't pay us on time. Eventually we were paid, and I'm assuming eventually Hero was also given the donation money.
Yeah.
But how late was he giving you that money? Do you recall?
Every year it's like almost the next year before we get it.
Sounds like
it's 5-6 months before, after the event, before we get anything ever. This last year for 2023, actually he sent us a check like within a month, which was like, oh, okay. But he still had 2022 payment that was still lingering. So we just got 2022 finalized. I got the check about, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
that was Missouri, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Took almost a whole year to pay that out.
A little over a year.
Yeah, I don't understand why it took that long, to be honest. And that was a pretty good event because this guy was there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of money thrown at that event to get. We always seemed to try and beat the year before.
The previous year, yeah.
Always.
We sat at a table in Utah.
Yes,
and we just kept.
Oh.
I had stuff in my pocket. I'm like, okay, here we go, and it was all of us, and it was all of the sponsors.
Yep.
In there. So I worked both sides of this. I worked at Artec, and I worked at Hero, but I also have my friends that were there as sponsors, and it became like the sponsor table became really crazy about oh, come on, we got to get there. So everyone started like pushing a little more, and everyone came with what they knew they were going to do, but we were holding it back to get to where we wanted to be. So
correct.
Definitely had some times where we pushed really hard.
So I went on and I asked Nathan about a specific topic because I had a private conversation with Darb about him and Nathan and the ownership of the company. And so it went a little like this when I asked Nathan that question.
I remember he had a conversation with me about you, and he said that he was going to send you papers that said he was going to buy you out and separate you from JP Trex, which eventually was renamed and rebranded to Crawl America.
Right.
Did any of that happen?
No, I never heard. I mean, I remember you and I briefly talking about that, and that came up a couple of years ago when stuff was happening. And I remember you mentioning that, and I was like, I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep a lookout for it. I never saw anything, dude. I never. Darb again took it upon himself to put himself in a higher power position than he was ever in to begin with, and take advantage of a situation that just to screw people over. I mean, to be honest with you, like I have so much frustration, animosity towards him because of what he does and, who he thinks he is. When honestly, like I said, he's just a con artist out there to scam people and take advantage of people and try to make a big name for himself when all it's doing is burying him in the ground, to be honest with you.
Shows a little bit more of Darb's character there. And I'm frankly not surprised that didn't happen. I had a feeling Darb was just saying things to make people stop asking questions.
I worked at after the St. George, the Utah Crawl America, that Darb was a little shady.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I started catching on to him, because it was just his demeanor because I was a little bit more involved behind the scenes of how things were progressing, was when I started working out that, things aren't starting to add up here. There's pieces in the puzzle that should be there that aren't there, which made me start to, think about how the organization is running and what Hero is missing out on. When it comes to a veteran charity, if if you're a charity to veterans, why isn't all the money going to the veterans? Not, well, I've got to take, money from my pocket because, I'm putting all these hours in to do this. Well, I'm sorry, but that's why you do it. You're volunteering your time to raise money for the veterans. That's when from that event, I can see Darb's shifty side, and Nathan is on the end of it.
Yeah.
So
to be clear, the Crawl America is not part of Hero Off Road at all.
Correct.
Darb is never on the board, never served any position at all with Hero Off Road. The event has only been, we're going to create this event to
raise money,
donate to donate proceeds to go to Hero. So we always knew that there was profit happening somewhere. We just knew that once everything was covered and the bills are covered, that the residual would go to Hero.
Correct.
So that is kind of the truth bomb that has to be put out there. There's all the other tales and shit behind it that are kind of surfacing, and there's things that I don't even know about that Gabe's been digging around at, and Ray and I have had talks and long talks and about even this year was we should just start taking it over, start doing the event ourselves, and then just make sure that it is a event that is run by the charity, for the charity, by volunteers. So no one gets a paycheck in Hero. No one gets paid for anything. You don't get paid for jack shit.
And that's the way it's supposed to be honest.
And our claim to fame is, other than menial costs that we have to pay for our website. So I think that's like $300 a year to have the website up and running and managed with the SSL and everything. We have to pay some processing fees if we take payments over credit card or PayPal. But since we registered as a charitable organization, that is less than what a normal business actually pays. So we get a discount at that. I always try to do any programs like GoDaddy used to give us free hosting. That program's all ended now, but Microsoft has kicked in. So now Microsoft kicked in with email that's free. So that dropped us like $200 a year in email costs. So there's always this work that we do to try to save every penny we can to be able to push everything we have out to all of our give back stuff. So Patriot Crawl, races or fishing events, whatever that might be. So we try to keep our target for what we spend for the organization under 5%. And we keep it definitely lower than that. But then there's the costs that go along with the event, like Patriot Crawl. Everyone gets a T-shirt, so we buy T-shirts. So it's basically part of the buyout. We do have have had apparel and stuff for sale on the website, which we hadn't for a while, just because I couldn't manage it with Artec, and because I used to get the orders, put the orders in envelopes, package them, take them to the post office twice a week, and it just got so busy with everything I was doing, I just had to stop selling any sort of merchandise at all. So but everything in the merchandise, I mean, yeah, we're spending money, but what we spend for buying merchandise, we make up more by selling it and bringing money back in house. So really, doesn't really qualify as a cost infliction for us. It's a profit infliction.
So moving on, I want to also interview a few people that were volunteers for JP Treks / Crawl America. Earlier, you might have heard Nathan mention Amber and Brad Brewer. They've been part of it from almost the beginning. So I reached out to them, and they're more than happy to, give their testimony and talk about it. So here we go.
Amber and Brad Brewer, thanks for joining me. You were participants and volunteers for then JP Treks, which is now Crawl America. So go ahead and give your background a little bit. How did you first become a participant?
So the first year was 2015, and it was new Jeep to us, new to events and everything like that. Never been to any events. So we saw that they were coming to Colorado, and one of our friends was kind of part of it, Nathan. So we were like, let's apply and see if we get accepted into this event. So we did get accepted into it. I think there was 30 other people or 29 other people. There was 30 total participants in it. And we got accepted into it. So it was here in Colorado, up in Buena Vista is where it was.
That's how it started.
And at what point did you become a volunteer for the event?
So at the end of 2015, I think Nathan and his team realized we kind of like stepped up to the plate and kind of led a group up to Wheeler Lake. Yeah. There was like 15 of us that went, but they helped. Well, we helped facilitate that. So they actually saw like our drive and wanting to be like, I don't know, helpers. And that's how it all started. So at the end of 2015, they asked us if we wanted to be a volunteer for 2016, which
was like the hospitality situation. So.
Yeah, like taking over hotels and trying to find the accommodations for that side. And I am a great planner. I love planning. So I was like, I can definitely facilitate that. So I eventually started looking, and then 2016 happened, and we didn't really go anywhere with that, but
yeah, they still took over the role for 2016. They still, once we got to 2016 and we were accepted as the participant for that one as well, we were volunteer / participant. And that's kind of where, when we got there, we kind of had more of a volunteer role.
I went on and kind of probed a little bit because it sounded like they had a little bit more information to give. So I asked them flat out, when did they start getting suspicious about the whole event and things, seeming fishy?
So at what point did you guys become a little suspicious of the business side of it and the money and the products that were coming in?
So it was like 2017, I'd say that was. So 2016, we were just, part of the gang or whatever. The prices did jump up because the first year we were camping and things like that. So I understand the second year we were going to hotels and things. So more cost as far as that goes. So I understood that there's going to be a price raise for participants. But then in 2017, there was a huge price raise. I can't remember what the price jumps were, but
a lot.
It was significant even for us as volunteers and participants being like, okay, well, we know how much it costs for a hotel for this many days. What else are we getting for it as a benefit? And it just didn't add up as far as that went. So that started raising questions for us from the get-go as that.
And I wanted, with me trying to be in trying to do hospitality and stuff, I actually saw what the prices were. So when he came with the price increase of what I was just kind of leery on like, where is all this money going with 30 participants? And the money wasn't adding up. So me and Brad then got suspicious and decided to ask Nathan and
it was at the end of 2017. We ended up asking the rest of the team for JP Treks, so Nathan, Darb, and I don't know if Jacob Hurd was still there or not that year or not, but we ended up asking them if we could see the books basically for everything, see where all the money's going, see what money's coming in and what money's going out, and how much is going to Hero Off-Road, because that was a big thing to us because my whole family's full of veterans and everything. So that was another big part of it too, is make sure that they were getting X amount of money that they said that they were going to get. So we asked for the books and it just went completely sideways.
It seems to go that way when you ask to see the books.
Yeah. if you're doing something for charity, in my opinion, there's nothing to hide. If you're straight up with people and you tell them we are taking this money for this and the rest of the money is going to charity, there should be an open book as to for any questions.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No.
Well, that's any charities books that should be open to anyone because you've got nothing to hide. If it's going in the right places, then that's where it should be going.
Yep. So I'm going back to Nathan really quick because I asked him flat out if at any point there was a 501c3 registered with the company.
At any time, it was never a 501c3, correct? So,
From when I was involved, no. We tried to, and Darb said he got the paperwork and stuff. I never saw it. I never signed on anything. I never had anything. I was never involved with it. So
that's kind of kind of an illegal thing to assume a charity as taking donations to assume as it's going to a charity, and that's what he was basically doing. Whether or not it was he knew it or not, that's irrelevant. And especially if he's withholding those charity funds and not paying all of those funds, and if he's misallocating those funds, that's another thing too.
Absolutely, and not to use those funds for personal gains or anything like that. And charity money, like, come on, man, like that's like people starting to GoFundMe for a certain organization and then taking that money and using it for themselves on a vacation. Yeah. Like that happened in the real world to a deal. Like it's pretty bad, man. It's pretty bad.
So the reason why I bring this up is because there were some people saying that they were told that the money going to Darb, in return they would get a 501c3 receipt to write off as a donation, and these people never received that certificate for a write-off.
Yeah, because you can't give a receipt for something that isn't going directly to the charity.
Right.
So,
you can't. A proxy cannot.
You can't do that. They can get one. The organization, JP Trex or Crawl America, can get a deduction from us. I have a form. I've done it for companies and individuals that want to place a donation and want to get the write-off. I can do that. We have the form, and it's common for us to do that. But when it goes funneled through, the problem is that the organization has to track where the money comes from, and it's a direct income in. Then you can write off that. And even so, it's not 100%. It's only 50% is what a 501c3 does. So even when you say, okay, I gave $10,000 to this organization, $5,000 is what is deductible on your taxes. It's not 100% tax deductible. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. There's not a lot of organizations. There's very few in the IRS guidelines that allow you to do 100% write-off for a charitable donation. And I believe it's 50% for gifts or whatever, and it's 60% for cash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the limitation of the C3 is. So there's different nonprofit designations depending on what the organization is.
So I'm going back to Amber and Brad, and I asked them this question.
Did you happen to see any of the incoming sponsorship, either money or product?
Well, the crazy thing about that, though, is that the sponsorships, they had to pay to come to the event.
Yeah, they were participants, but yeah, I mean, we saw like the raffle prizes, and then obviously
like the giveaway prizes. So obviously,
and then the Jeeps that Darb was getting built too. That was a big thing too, where he's not a wealthy guy, so we knew that he was getting parts from that, but we didn't know how he was getting those parts from the sponsors and representing them. And then that whole thing was a whole question to us. And then Drew started getting his Jeep all built and everything. And then one gets sold. And then, it was just, there was just a lot of shady things going on that really started raising questions about it. So
that was the year Darb had actually rebuilt his entire Jeep. Somehow he got a sponsorship with Dakota Customs in South Dakota, and they put a brand new Hemi in his Jeep. As they said, and we all know, Darb is not a wealthy person and has always struggled with money. That has never been a secret, and everyone has known that for the longest time. So, how did he come up with money for a motor? And why did he talk in this company into all this labor, including sponsorship? It all went to his Jeep instead of it going charitably to the event.
Well,
that was always something that I had questioned.
Yeah, well, we know how much V8 swaps these days. And even back then, you were looking at $30,000.
Yeah.
So what did he promise to Dan, Dakota Customs, to say, well, I'm going to offer you this with the event? What was he getting in return?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure he didn't pay $30,000 for it.
No. It's just kind of weird how it's in everyone's face, and then you ask a question and you're getting 20 different answers. It's just weird. I asked them a few more questions about things that were going on with the event, including a rumor that I heard about, and this is what they said.
And can you clear something up for me also, because I don't know if this is factual or not. He made you guys buy BFG tires because BFG was the sponsor. Is that right?
He did, yeah. So that's the first year that they brought BFG on.
That was the rule.
A BFG only event or whatever. So he couldn't find 30 participants that wanted to be part of it that ran BFGs. We weren't on BFGs. We are on NITOs. So he did. We got a little bit of a deal or whatever, but that didn't have anything to do with him
at all. So, that was just us.
But he did make us, and then Trevor
and Brittany, and
then Trevor and Brittany also changed tires, and then I think there was somebody else,
Chris and Audrey,
that changed tires
and then
for the event, basically.
Like all the volunteers went in, we all had BFGs to represent.
But that's a fact.
Oh, that's definitely.
So that's funny, because when I first started being involved with the event, that's how I knew the event became. It was only a BFG tire event. You could only attend if you had BFG tires.
Yeah, according to Darb, that was a stipulation from BFG to have them sponsor the event. Whether that's true or not, at this point, who knows? Who knows what the truth is from his mouth anymore?
That's probably a promise he made to
BFG.
Marketing at BFG.
Yeah, you're probably
right. He made it to them to get more
correct
out of it. Is basically how that happened.
Yeah,
BFG has never been like that.
BFG Garage.
You have to be only BFG for anything. I mean, both Jonathan and Tim are both gone from BFG now, and that whole marketing strategy that was there before is kind of been fizzled away. But from my experience and in my time, both Jonathan and Tim are friends of mine. I've known them for quite some time now, and done events and certain different things together, personally and business wise. So that would have never been something that I believe anyone, even BFG lawyers, would even cook up.
Yeah, well, because even the BFG Garage, even at KOH and Moab, don't have we just look after BFG people.
Yeah,
no, they look after everybody. So they're never ever going to market that.
Yeah, right. Like I said, it was never something that I believe that BFG at any level would require.
Yep.
So I reached out to other volunteers that were part of the event. There were some that mimicked Amber and Brad's opinion. Their stories were pretty much identical. I asked if they would want to go on record on camera and talk about it, and there was a little bit of hesitation. Obviously, they either are camera shy or they just didn't want to piss off the wrong person or something. To whatever the reasoning was, they didn't feel comfortable doing it. But I reached out to 3 other volunteers, and they all had the same stories. That they wondered where the money was going. They all agreed the same thing too about they were forced to buy BFG tires. And they were at some point asked if they could look at the books, and they were told no.
Yeah, well, it just seems to be across the board that he has every single event that he has done has said something or another to a vendor to get something in his pocket at the cost of the event.
Yes. So now I'm going to introduce Franklin Metz. Franklin is a veteran. He's a friend of mine.
He's a good tattooist too, just by the way.
Yeah, he's a great tattoo artist. And he was made promises by Darb, and they fell quite short. This is the part that's probably going to piss people off the most. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this and let Franklin speak for himself here.
All right. So I have Franklin Metz with me. He is another victim of Darb's promises and broken promises, and just kind of a mess. So Franklin, thanks for joining me, and quickly go into a little bit into your military background, and then talk a little bit about how we met, and then your situation.
Did 20 years in the Marine Corps. From 91 to 11, did my time, got out, moved to the Tennessee area. I met you and Darb, I think it was in 19, out in Moab. It was during one of your Crawl America events. Just wanted to get out there and ride with you guys and see what it was really like to, hit some off-road trails. Made contact with Darb later, and wound up going and doing the next year's events, which was the 2020 Crawl America, which was out of Springfield, Missouri. Had a blast out there. And I decided then that, you know what, I need to kick my rig up a notch and actually build this thing to do what some of you guys are doing. I mean, you guys all have these awesome, crazy, wild rigs that can do some serious stuff. Sat there and chatted with Darb about stuff and started the process. I bought axles here in, the Chattanooga, North Georgia area. Bought them out of a junkyard. I got a Chevy 14 bolt and a Ford F350. Did a little bit of work on it, and then September 22nd, 21. Started talking about building it with Darb, and we started getting the Artec trussing and tabs, and started talking about all this wild, glamorous, wild stuff that we could do to it, and I was really down for it. And, there's things that he had promised me that, I'm really not going to get into because it was phone conversation back and forth. But I got a bunch of stuff that via text message that I saved and I still have that are the things that I'd like to get into and talk about. Because, I mean, I was a little upset when he walked away from Outlaw Off-Road. Saying upset is just an understatement. Because I started the axle build with Outlaw Off-Road February 4th, 2022. And to this day, they still have my Jeep. They still have my axles. And we won't even get into the amount of money that they have. And I still don't have a Jeep. I mean, my Jeep has been down there at Outlaw Off-Road in Charlotte for 11 months now.
And this was all predicated on promises that Darb had made you.
Oh, yes. Darb started off with these wild, grand thoughts and ideas, and I was down for it. He had told me, X amount of dollars. I got sponsors that can hook you up and take care of this and this and this and that and everything else. And I believe the guy. I mean, he hadn't steered me wrong yet. There's a couple issues that I was a little iffy about, but I rolled with it. I believed him, and I was going with it. You know, because I like the Crawl America network, and I like the people that were involved in wheeling it. So I had no issues to believe otherwise.
So let me say this really quick. Outlaw Off-Road is an innocent bystander in this. Darb was working for them in the Charlotte shop at one point, and there was some weird things going on, you can say, with some POs and POs meaning purchase orders, and other things on the books that just never really jived. So this aligns in the time that Franklin had mentioned, that there was promises being made to him. There was promises about this Jeep being built. Since this interview, Franklin has got his Jeep back. Outlaw Off-Road has completed the Jeep. Franklin loves it. He's willing it. Again, you have to understand his frustration level. He didn't have his Jeep for quite a long time.
Yeah, I spoke to Franklin. Sorry, Gate.
I
spoke to Franklin probably 7 months ago because he found out that I apparently work for Outlaw Off-Road, and he's like, "Dude, do you know what's going on with my Jeep? Like, Darb's disappeared." I said, "Well, because Darb got fired. That's what happened to Darb." And he's like, "Dude, they still got my Jeep down there." And I'm like, "Well, I'm at the Huntsville location, so I've got no idea what's going on down there." So just give them a call, dude. They're easy going. If there's any issues, they will talk to you about it. And that's the first time I've actually known that Franklin actually got his Jeep back. So I'm really happy that's finally worked its way out and he's loving it. And now I can go wheeling with the son of a bitch. So it'll be good.
Yeah.
I just got to keep Justine away from him because she wants new tattoos. So I'm just like, no.
Yeah, but I just want to emphasize that Outlaw is an innocent bystander in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Darb put both of them in the middle of the whole thing, and it's just a very unfortunate incident that one shop was a victim and another person was a more horrible victim in this whole thing.
Well, in saying that too, Darb's downfall to the reason why he got pretty much fired from Outlaw was from the Missouri event, because he turned 3 shops pretty much against each other to the point where they were arguing about who's paying for what and why did you pay for this and why didn't that get paid and why are we all paying all this freaking money for and what are we getting out of it? Like what is Outlaw getting out of it? That was his downfall. Like I attended that one. Gerald was there. Josh was there. So you had two shops there attending from Outlaw, and the amount of phone calls that I overheard Darb talking to Doug about, and then we had a joint session because there were so many stories going around. And he got caught, and he's trying to weasel out of it and blame other people.
Sounds about right.
Was this is stealing?
Well,
product or
no, offering. So you pay for this and you'll get this. I paid for this, but I'm not getting this. Why am I paying extra now to get what I asked for?
Yeah. It's just the add-on expense on top of it.
Correct. And then once this all went down, I'm done. Like, this is the last event I'll go to. And we all know how that ended up.
So Darb had told him that he had quit. He told Franklin that he had quit. So I asked him, when he found out, and this is how it went.
At what point did you realize he was no longer part of Outlaw? And did he keep up this ruse that he was going to continue to fund this build?
I found out the day before he quit. He called me. I got it in my notes here. August 12th. Darb informed me that he's leaving Outlaw Off-Road, and this is one of his direct quotes from a text. I will make sure this goes well. If Josh wants to give me the labor money, I will gladly take it with me to Knoxville and have it finished under my direct supervision. But they don't want to let that go from the PR standpoint. That was a text message I got from him. And September 8th, he says, Josh doesn't want to give me the money, so I'm just making sure everything is covered. And I'll tell you right now, my Jeep's still sitting in Outlaw Off-Road.
And at what point did Outlaw know that you had an arrangement with Darb?
Probably when I took the Jeep down there to get it dropped off the first time. No, I'd have to say drop it off the second time, because I had already talked to him a few times. I dropped the Jeep off January 14, 2023. You know what? It was when I picked it up, January 26, 22. When I picked it up from Outlaw Off-Road, I sat there and I talked to the guys. And it was kind of upsetting because when I mentioned to Wes, one of the guys at Outlaw, that, you know, Darb said that you guys wouldn't give the money. That's the reason why it's not up there in Knoxville with him. You should have seen the looks on everybody's face in that office. They all looked at each other like, are you serious? And I'm like, I have a feeling this is wrong. And they're like, oh, yeah, we told Darb to take it with him. We told Darb to come pick it up and get it out of our shop. And that right there was a little upsetting with me because Darb abandoned the build. You know, he abandoned me with Outlaw Off-Road. And since then, I felt I've been stuck in the middle. Yeah, I felt like I was stuck in the middle of the build because, you know, Outlaw Off-Road, I feel they got stuck with me because the way Darb walked away and left me with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to put it in words because I don't want to bust Outlaw Off-Road's chops too hard because they've been building it and they've been taking care of it.
So again, this was recorded, a couple months ago in preparation for this show. Again, he has received his Jeep back. He's loving it, but obviously, he's been lied to, and it sounds like he just was put in a situation that sucked really bad, and there was really no winner in this.
So at the end of it, did Outlaw get paid to do the work?
Yes, he ended up telling me that he had to pay more to complete the work.
So therefore, maybe Darb didn't pay Outlaw to do the work when he was there. Made some cockbull story up. And that's why
what it sounds like. Yep.
Yeah, and that's why when he said, "Hey, I'll take it down to Knoxville, but wait until they give me the money." Well, if there's no money to take, what deals are you going to cut down at Knoxville?
Yeah. I asked him flat out because it kind of sucks as knowing that he's being taken advantage of. But I asked him how he feels about the whole thing as a veteran, because this organization was supposed to be benefiting veterans.
Unfortunate. I hate to hear that, just because I know you really well, and you're a great guy. I mean, you've sacrificed a lot for our country. You've given me a free tattoo, so I mean, it just kind of sets the example of who you are as a person. So to hear this, it really frustrates me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how frustrating it is for you. Knowing that he's taking in money for a charity for veterans like yourself, veterans that need support, other veterans that might have physical disabilities and that sort of thing. How does that make you feel, knowing that he's taking this money and pretty much allocating it to himself instead of the organization?
If that's actually what's going on, I find that extremely perturbing. I mean, it puts him up with the guys that do the stolen valor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to sit there and say, hey, man, I'm collecting this money for veterans to help with this or that or whatever the case is, and then sliding that money into your own pocket, taking that money and putting it into your own build instead of, distributing it out like you're supposed to be doing. And like I said, I don't know the ifs, ands, or buts of everything. I don't know that, exactly what he's been doing with stuff. All I know is where I'm sitting at. I'm not going to go into the hearsay that other people have told me, because I've heard a lot of messed up stuff since my Jeep's been in North Carolina. I've heard other people tell me some stuff that I find pretty perturbing. And for Darb to sit there and keep blowing the smoke up my ass, that drives me up the wall even more.
He's got a point. It lines up there with stolen valor.
It's true. I put it straight down to that. And I just want to know how that dolphin tattoo's going on your hip, Gabe.
I asked Nathan the same question, as he's a veteran from the Navy.
As a veteran, knowing that this charity uses these funds for other veterans, what's that do to you? What's that mental state for you there?
I mean, it definitely irks me the wrong way for sure. One, I feel bad for anybody getting involved. I feel bad for the charities because, the conversations we had initially and stuff to get these guys involved was like, man, we got you. We're a Jeeper community. Like, we take care of each other. And for somebody to come in and take advantage of that situation and literally do the opposite of what we're going to say, and then somebody assuming an authoritarian or a authority role within the organization and making that judgment call, like, says a lot. Number one, a veteran would never do that. We take care of our own 100% all day long, hands down, and I will stand my ground no matter what. And it just goes to show you the type of character that Darb actually has. So, and a lot of people that I've talked to that have been involved that are veterans and stuff, it's come up over the past, nothing lately, but the past couple of years when stuff came up in conversation, like I was like, oh yeah, what would you do? And you see the look on their face just completely just change. And yeah, it's a hard topic to have, man. It definitely irks me the wrong way for sure. It definitely puts a bad taste in your mouth and doesn't make you want to do anything with anybody because you don't know who you can trust.
There you have it. A couple of veterans giving their opinion on the whole situation and how they feel about it. Before I get into how I got involved with everything, do you guys have anything to say?
I'm not surprised. Like, we know what's going on, and we've known about it for quite some time.
Armando, anything?
I'm still brewing.
Because you just look at it.
Honestly, a lot of this was shielded from me.
Well, why is that? Why do you think that is? Because you're connected to everybody.
Right. Yeah. Probably. But yeah. So I like I said, I'm still. A lot of this is still processing and churning. So. I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna breathe a little bit. I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna listen a little more. And I'm not gonna say a lot right now. Let's just say that, okay?
All right. So, how am I involved? I'm pretty sure everyone that's listening is like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And
some voiceover.
You're nobody. You don't even travel the world.
Some voiceover.
So, those that don't know me, I had a company called Craw 5280, which was a videography company specifically for off-road. Started this in 2012. I just did little YouTube channels here and there. And then I was introduced to Darb around 2015, 16. He saw some of my videos. He had the idea that he wanted to document his event. The first year was South Dakota. As I mentioned earlier, that it all went well. Everything was fun. I did my job. I met all of my timelines, and I produced a video for them, and everyone was happy about it. The second year was in Tennessee, I believe. And that all went well again. Everything that was promised to me essentially was fulfilled. However, the payment for that event was about 6 months late. There was a ton of excuses why he couldn't pay us. And it, quite frankly, just did not sit well with me. And it made me not want to participate in the following event. Reluctantly, I did the following year, which was Moab. There was a stipulation that he had to make a deposit because the prior years, I did not take a deposit because I know this was a charity event and there was probably funds that needed to be allocated to setting up the event. Later, I find out that those funds were already in place. So I thought to myself, then he probably doesn't need to worry about sending me a deposit. It'll secure me mentally, knowing that I'll be paid when the job is done. So after Moab, it took quite a long time for me to be paid, even though there was a deposit. Come to find out, he had to take a personal loan out from his mother-in-law to pay me. I think that's also when he sold his Jeep, his JK, to repay that loan. The following year, I asked for half of the money up front for the following event. There was a timeline on that. It was May 1st that he had to give me the 50% of the total amount for that event. And May 1st came and went. There was nothing. I would call him, talk to him about it, and there was promises made, promises broken. It finally came down to, I think, 3 weeks before the event, and I sent him a letter, an official letter. And I said, if the deposit is not made by this date X, let's just say, then we're not going to be attending your event or filming your event. Armando tried to talk me into it and said, he's good for it. Armando even tried to pay for some of it out of his own pocket. And I told him, don't do that because, who knows what's going to happen. So, Darb eventually did not pay it. He reneged on the contract. So that was actually the first year that I had an official contract with him. And it's a legally binding contract. So at this point, he owes me over $16,000 still to this day. I would sue him, but I know he doesn't have money. It would just cost me more money to fight him in court and try to get a judgment. And that judgment's not going to go anywhere because it doesn't matter if you have a judgment. You still have to collect that money from them. It would be different if I was a corporation and I can garnish his wages, but in a civil matter, you can't do that. So that's who I am. That's how I got involved with this. Talking with everyone that has been a volunteer, people that have been participants, vendors for the event, they've all said the same thing. They've all had promises and they've all had broken promises. Some, like I said earlier, some of them have said Darb would provide them a 501c3 receipt for the donations made, and those donations cannot now not be written off. So, yeah. His real name is Brad, by the way. Darb is not his real name.
I don't even think his real name is Brad.
I know the debt collectors that kept ringing his workplace kept saying Brad.
Apparently, Darb is a fictitious name. It's actually Brad backwards. The story goes that he hates his dad, and to piss off his dad, he started calling himself Darb. Who knows if even that's true?
Who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
Once you start telling lies, everything becomes a lie and becomes truth. And it's easy to tell the lie than tell the truth.
Yeah. So this Darb Whitfield, who is planning an event or tried to plan an event for this year, had to cancel it. There's some speculation that people knew that I was going to be releasing video with interviews of people and that it would be damaging. There's other people that think he just doesn't have the money to do it because he's had to pay Hero Off-Road what he's owed to them. Whatever the reasoning is, I'm glad he's not putting on this event anymore. He doesn't deserve it. People can find different events for the same amount of money and have a good time. If they feel like they need to donate, they can donate directly to Hero Off-Road. That's my opinion, and I think that's what they should do. Like Armando said, there's plans that they might start doing their own events, hosting their own events. So I look forward to that. But at this point, if anyone hears of Crawl America again, if anyone hears that Darb Whitfield is putting on another event with a different name,
yeah, run.
Raise the red flags. Tell people about it. Say bullshit. Do not participate. Do not donate to this person. Nothing.
Well,
as of now, like Armando said, he's not associated with Hero Off-Road.
Never has been. We've only been the named charitable organization
for his
as
event,
part of the event. The Hero has no affiliation with the event other than the named on the charity organization. That was the promise of where the money was going to be pushed after the event.
Yeah, because I still know participants are still waiting for video and photos.
Yes, he still owes money to the company that did the video for, I think it was St. George.
St. George and Missouri.
Yeah, Market Street Media,
Missouri.
right?
Yes.
The second Missouri.
Yeah, the second Missouri, yes. The last one, which was 2022.
Yeah, because the first Missouri, there was no video crew.
Correct. Yeah, now this is going back 2 years ago.
Yeah, so he owes a lot of people money. I know for sure he owes Market Street Media money because they made videos for him, and that's why no one has seen those videos is because he hasn't paid for.
Correct.
For them.
Yeah, the only people who got footage, they paid Market Street extra on that weekend. That if they wanted like personal videos and photos of their vehicles, that's it. But for the ones that I'm pretty sure you pay a package with Crawl a certain amount that you'll get video, you'll get like an interview, like a walk around on your Jeep, and actual photos of you out on the trail. Still waiting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 2 years.
That's a damn shame.
2 years? 2 years. And that's not what we go for anyway. Like everyone wants to get photos and videos. That's cool, but that wasn't the idea of the event. The idea of the event was to go and support Hero, have a laugh, make some money. Well, I didn't make any money. I lost money because I gave it away. So as everybody else did there. I think the only person who made money out of all of it was Darb. That's pretty much it.
So the last straw for me was when he tried to sell his JL. And
that was the last straw for everybody.
That's when I started to dig a little bit more and figure out that a lot of these parts that were being donated were being put on his personal Jeep. And then he's selling his Jeep for profit. I think he marked up the cost on that. It was like $60,000 or something for a $30,000 Jeep.
I think it was. Wasn't he trying to sell it for like $90,000?
It was something ridiculous.
With all given parts.
Yeah.
That was given pretty much to support Hero Off-Road.
It was a Sport JL. It was a Sport JL. I think his axles according to him anyways, were either
they were given
free or
they were free. I know that for a fact. They were free per contract to be in sponsors for the event. So it's still, even with those axles, it's still a $30,000 Jeep.
Yeah.
Axles are free.
So
unless he's going to sell it and donate $45,000-$50,000 to Hero, then okay.
Which he wasn't going to do.
Correct. I'll be happy with that, but we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's probably to pay his mother-in-law back the extra loans he has to pay for. Rinse and repeat, Darb.
So now he's working at another company. I'm not going to say that company's name, but they're here in Knoxville. They're in Tennessee, in Knoxville, the Knoxville area. I'm sure for those that want to figure that out, it wouldn't be too hard. There's not too many off-road shops in Knoxville. I reached out to the owner of that company and just let him know, hey, I'm doing this video about Darb. I know you don't know what's going on, but you should know what's going on. So to this day, I don't know if Darb still works there. I'm sure after this, he probably won't. I don't think this guy wants any bad mojo on his hands or anything, but that's wholly up to him. I don't want anyone to be fired, especially if they're supporting a family. But all I'm saying is to that guy, just watch out. Yeah. Check your books. Obviously, some fishy stuff happened at Outlaw, and there's some people there not happy about it. So,
yeah, I'm like Donald Trump with a gag order.
I'll pay your fine if you talk about it.
Oh God, yeah, it's
Doug, lift a gag order.
And the thing is too, like, I got involved back in 2019. I think it might be in 2019, 2020. Darb was in a really bad spot with Crawl, and we sat down for probably 3 or 4 times in Georgia, because that's where he was living at the time, on how to make the event run better. So he even tried to coax me in. One, because of who I was back then. I had a lot of connections. I knew a lot of people. I could probably, get more sponsors on board to, help the organization. And I was so close to getting on the other side of it, of organizing. So close. And I'm so glad that I was so busy at the time, running all across the country and running an office out of my Jeep, that I didn't have the time. And I'm glad I didn't, because I don't want to be associated with someone that does what he did.
Yeah.
Because that's not me.
Armando, have you...
He's still roasting over there.
Composed your thoughts and organization yet?
No.
He put a gag order on himself.
There's no gag order. So
I think the situation Armando is in is kind of like, he's just finding out now that his girlfriend cheated on him, or
yes.
or in his case, his boyfriend cheated on him.
Yes.
And it's a hard thing to hear. I'm sorry this is the first time you're hearing about this. I thought you knew a little bit more than that. If I wouldn't have blindsided you like this if I would have known.
And it's, I mean, it is what it is, where it is.
Well, you can't change it. Now you know.
I can't change it. All I can do is, for the future, is be more particular. Ray and I are going to have a long talk after this about our future, what our plans are, and how we can recover from this and to not take what has happened and what has transpired in the past into the future with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at some really cool changes, a lot of growth, some opportunities that we have to bring what that event had promised to be in-house and run it the way it's supposed to be. Not building a Jeep for anyone. No one on the board will get anything. If we do build a Jeep, it'll be a direct build for a veteran. We've talked about doing one of those for quite some time. We've helped people out with parts here and there. I mean, we've had a veteran that was on the edge years ago, going through a divorce, was on the danger list to be one of the 22, and his Jeep was his life, and we made Jeep payments for him. So there's stuff like that we've done that we probably should make a lot more of that pushed out, and problem is with two people that are running the organization, it's really hard to make everything happen that should happen. Mm-hmm. So we're pushing more for next year to bring a larger volunteer base on that's not necessarily board members, and then bring board members that actually come in and take control. I mean, that's the idea of a board position is you're here to produce ideas and to participate, and to do stuff and participate and help us raise funds. And that's a hard thing for some people to understand about coming in at a position like that. It is what it is. I'm going to sit. I'm going to listen. I'm going to process. I'll have a lot more to say about this, but right now it's just this is frustrating. This is making me reflect back on myself on what I just watched and let happen, and didn't think twice about it, because at the end of the day, we always got the check. But what went on, what damage was put out in our name, what damage was thrown to the organization. That's the thing that I worry about the most, is that
it's the reputation.
I put my heart and soul into this organization, and I don't know, it's just
the thing that I would like to figure out is, because a lot of the last day event, a lot of the times on the last day of the event, there's a raffle, and the raffle is probably a big, I mean, I know it for a fact, it's a big contributor to the donation.
It's the one that always gets us over across the line.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
All of that money is cash. So if it's mostly cash, why does it take him so long to pay you? And how do we know what he paid you is actually what was being donated, part of the raffle?
Again, from our side, and the way I have to let that go is that it would be the same as it's a for-profit company that has the idea that they're going to put the proceeds to the nonprofit. So there's the step that happens, and I expect that, yes, you're going to cover what you need to do, but I didn't know about that the Hemi swap was covered. I didn't know any of this other stuff was taking place. I was never told, hey, by the way, I'm getting a Hemi swap at Dakota Customs. I never knew that was part of what was happening. Mm-hmm. I've heard a couple of the stories. Some of the vendors going pissed off because they were promised media, didn't get media. I've known that's been the thing forever. I know that you haven't gotten paid, or you didn't get paid, and still hasn't gotten paid. But again, that's a contract between you and that company, and it didn't affect me other than the fact that just fuckers fucking over my friends. So, so there's definitely a lot for me to take in and to really go over and process and really work out with Ray and I to figure how we're going to proceed with our plans and how to eliminate any backlash that they could potentially come back to the organization.
Yep.
On that note, I think we'll wrap it up here, and I think everything that's sad to be said has been said. For one last time, if you're out there and you're planning on going to this event, if he has it again, just be cautious. It's not, this person is not a good person. I did try to reach out to Darb, but I've been blocked on Facebook and social media. So here,
well, I'm sure I'm next.
So Darb, if you ever want to talk about this and give your side of it, you can unblock one of us and reach out to us and say, hey, let me give my side of the story.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, the way that some of these people have said that you've lied to them so many times, I don't know if anyone's going to believe you.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
All right, guys. I guess that's it. Everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, see you guys.
See ya.
See ya.